Welcome back to A Slice of News, where I cut you off a slice of news. Late night talk show Jimmy Kimmel Live has been suspended indefinitely by network ABC over supposedly controversial comments the host Jimmy Kimmel made on Monday about the Charlie Kirk assassination. When the news broke, I admit I wondered, what could he possibly have said that would earn him an indefinite suspension, essentially a cancellation of his show? Did he advocate for violence on the right? Did he see the shooter as some sort of hero? What did he do? What could he possibly have said that could warrant this? So I went back and I looked up what his comments were. His comments were, quote, "We had some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them, and with everything they can to score political points from it." That was it. That's all he said. It wasn't calling Tyler Robinson a hero. It wasn't saying he was glad Charlie Kirk died. Nothing that really could be pointed to as obviously inflammatory statements that would warrant a cancellation of his show indefinitely. So what we're really seeing is yet another example of censorship of what the right sees as defamatory or inflammatory language, which in reality is more just refusing to honor and venerate the great Charlie Kirk and make any sort of statement that would contradict the administration's narrative that the assassin Tyler Robinson was anything but a radical leftist who murdered the great Charlie Kirk for his great and godly conservative beliefs. It's pretty sad to see that this is just blatant media censorship. It is a repression of any speech that is not pro-conservative, pro-Charlie Kirk, pro-administration. It's really a playbook straight out of the authoritarian playbook. A prohibition of speech that is not within the approved talking points. You're allowed to have free speech, but only in certain contexts, in certain limits. And in some degree, it's not even just daring to not venerate Charlie Kirk or say something that they can point to and say it was defamatory. As they are trying to push it, they're saying that his statements categorizing Tyler Robinson as possibly a right-winger is misleading the public, when I think what he's really being censured for is speaking the truth, because I think anyone who is paying attention to the facts and not just eating up the propaganda put forward by the administration and its officials, Tyler Robinson was a right-wing extremist who most likely killed Charlie Kirk because Charlie Kirk was not right-wing enough for the people that he was a part of. And I think it's a scary precedent to be setting, to be shutting down a person's long-running TV show purely for supposedly speaking untruths to the people. I mean, how many shows can you think of that were shut down because of misleading information? I can't think of a single one, and certainly none on the right, since they have definitely been guilty of misleading the population on a lot of things and spreading a lot of lies, and they have never once been held accountable for it. So the idea that Jimmy Kimmel is being held accountable now for misleading the public when really he is speaking the truth is pretty scary. It's not something we should be seeing here in America. And really, when you get down to it, this is not like he was a news anchor or a political commentator. Jimmy Kimmel is a comedian. This is a talk show. This is not a news show. The idea that he is misleading the public with his claims that Tyler Robinson was right-wing affiliated is absolute nonsense. It is absurd. But I think part of what may have led to this indefinite hiatus, which is, like I said, really just a cancellation, may not have been as entirely Charlie Kirk related as it seems. Jimmy went on after making those previous statements to say, "On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half-staff, which got some criticism, but on human level, you can see just how hard the president is taking this." Then played a clip where the president was asked how he felt about Charlie Kirk, and he said he was feeling pretty good. And by the way, right there where you see all the trucks, they just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House. Then Kimmel commented, "Yes, he's at the fourth stage of grief. Construction. This is not how an adult grieves the murder of someone he called a friend. This is how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish, okay?" He then brought up a second clip of the president talking about the renovations of the White House for his ballroom on Fox and Friends when talking about Charlie Kirk. And, I can't say that he's wrong. If Trump truly felt Charlie Kirk was someone that he had any genuine affection for or cared about, in a time where he should be talking about his slain friend, or at least slain fellow conservative, all he can talk about is his cool new ballroom that he's adding to the White House. And so for this, Kimmel was taken off the air. I think it was not really about saying stuff that wasn't right about Charlie Kirk or the administration didn't feel was okay to say on air. This was about making the president look bad by repeating the things that he said to the public. And a leader shutting down speech that makes him look bad is another page out of the authoritarian playbook. He thinks he's the great, unassailable leader, and no one should be able to say anything bad about him or make him look bad or make him feel bad. It's scary to see. And what's worse is that this is undoubtedly just the first of what's likely to be more cancellations of so-called left-leaning people on TV. And let's not forget, this is not a guy who is, on CNN or MSNBC. He's not a newsman. He's not like a vetted authority on politics. He's a comedian on ABC. He's a talk show host. He's not someone whose opinion, because really this is just an opinion, should be grounds for dismissal and removal from the air. It's troubling. And the thin skin and huge ego our president has is at the heart of these sorts of cancellations, because he doesn't want people to make him look bad, even though really he's making himself look bad, because all he's doing is basically quoting him and then having an opinion and voicing it on the things that he says. It's ironic that the free speech people are now embracing the removal of speech, the cancellation of voices, just because they are voices that are not speaking the things that they like and are not aligned with the politics that they are. Personally, I've never really been a huge fan of censorship in media, regardless of political alignment. I think that even though a lot of times the right-wing rhetoric is very dangerous and maybe a lot of the things they say shouldn't be said, I've never been a fan of saying they shouldn't be allowed to say it unless it's, advocating for genocide or, racial slurs or something that's genuinely bad. If the conservative talking heads say something that I think is just absolutely absurd, I'll, roll my eyes or be like, man, can you believe this? Or, maybe forward a video clip to someone to be like, look at the complete idiocy that they're saying. But I've never been like, these people should be removed from the air and not allowed to speak what they think. And that is something we should be advocating in general. I mean, in our land of the free and free speech, we shouldn't be advocating for the cancellation of speech just because we don't like it. And something that I kind of find personally funny is I've never really been a huge Jimmy Kimmel fan in general. So coming out and defending him does feel a little foreign to me, but I feel like he shouldn't be told he can't say certain things, about the Charlie Kirk suspect, about the president. He shouldn't be taken off the air for that. But obviously those in power right now feel like he should be, and should be made an example so that others watch their tongue and don't say certain things or imply certain things going forward. The so-called land of the free is feeling a lot less free lately. So you're only free to say certain things, to even think certain thoughts. And yeah, the cancellation of a talk show is not a huge deal in the grand scheme, but it feels almost like a canary in the coal mine, sort of evidence that there's something really dangerous and scary going on if they feel emboldened and justified in canceling a show purely for speaking certain opinions and thoughts that certain people in power, in the administration, on the right, find distasteful and uncomfortable in some cases. So things are not feeling very good these days, and I can only hope that this is a temporary trend and that we will not be subject to further media censorship. I get the feeling that this is absolutely the beginning and by no means even close to the end. Alright guys, that's it for this episode of A Slice of News. I've been your host, Mr. Slice, and until next time, when I cut you off, another slice of news.